Hello and welcome back to another episode of Come Over for Dinner. I'm so excited you're joining me today. I'm Bess Hawthorne, and today I'm joined by a very special guest all the way from New Jersey. Her name is Melissa Niffick. She is married with 2 young children. She has a boy who's 6 and a girl who's about to turn 4. She works from home, but she also travels to the city. She's very close to New York City, and she works there as well. She has about 20 years of experience in journalism and recipe development. She attended the French Culinary Institute in New York City and has worked with many different companies, including Family Circle, HelloFresh, New York Times Cooking, The Today Show, Rachael Ray, and many more. A few years ago, her work as the food director of Rachael Ray in Season was even celebrated by the Eddie Awards, one of the publishing industry's most prestigious honors. Most recently, Melissa has been working on recipes for the National Parks Cookbook with Nat Geo Books, which features recipes inspired by all 63 U.S. national parks. This book comes out in 2026. Welcome, Melissa.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, I am so glad you're here. I'm so excited to jump into all the different ways that you have worked over the years, and especially in recipe development, to hear how you do that. But before we do, tell me a little bit about this cookbook that you have coming out. I looked at it online. I think it's available possibly for pre-order on Amazon. I saw that there was something about huckleberries from Glacier National Park, which we visited last summer. It's beautiful, breathtaking, and huckleberries are new to me. I lived in the South for most of my life and recently moved to the Northwest. They're delicious. If you ever come up here, you have to try huckleberry ice cream. And then the other recipes that really stood out, Hot Springs, beer cheese dip, and smash burgers. We visited Hot Springs. It's in Arkansas numerous times growing up, and I have eaten at the very bathhouse that inspired these recipes. So tell us a little bit about it.
Sure. So thank you for the warm introduction. The book I'm really excited about. I'm co-authoring it with my pal Nina Elder. She and I have worked together in the industry for a long time. I think we've known each other for 15 plus years, but she used to be the food director at Rachael Ray. And then when she left, I took over that role. And so we've known each other for a long time. And I'm so happy that we had the opportunity to work together on this book with National Geographic. Our editor, Allison, is amazing. And Nina had started this project, and I got brought into it happily. So yeah, you had said it's 63. There's 63 national parks. So there are 100 recipes in the book. There's at least one recipe from every park. Some have 2, like Hot Springs.
We get the smash burgers and the beer cheese dip.
That's right. In fact, I think the smash burger is one of the cover images, and is so delicious.
How can you beat smash burgers?
Right. But yeah, the book, it's the National Parks Cookbook. It celebrates, the food, the diverse food of our nation, really, right? So you've got recipes from Hawaii Volcanoes Park, from Hot Springs, from all of the beautiful parks in Alaska. You have, there's parks in Texas, and you have the Everglades in Florida. So it covers so much ground. And I think that people will be surprised about how diverse the recipes are. They are recipes that half of them we developed on our own, and they were inspired by the parks themselves, the flora and fauna. And then the other half of the recipes were contributed by chefs, by lodges in and around the park, or, anyone that's associated with the nearby the park. So anyway, really excited to share this book with everyone. It is available for pre-order. It's officially out on February 3rd, which felt so far away, but is truly around the corner, I think. So
I know. Blink and it'll be there. Well, that sounds really fun. I think it would be a fun resource for if you were traveling in that area, you kind of know what to try I mean, not, I mean, obviously, if you get the
For
cookbook, you
sure.
can try it from home and recreate the recipes. But also, it tells you what is it about that region. What ingredient do you have to try? Like huckleberries near
Yeah.
Glacier or in the Northwest. I didn't even know what huckleberries were moving up here. And so you kind of learn, ooh, these are the things
Yeah.
I need to be aware of, need to get my hands on. I love trying
For
foods
sure. And there's
local
a
to
lot
the
of history
region.
behind it too.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
grew up,
There's a lot of history behind the recipes too, which is really, really fun too.
hmm
So it was a great experience, and I'm so excited for everyone
yes.
to see
I
it.
grew up thinking I don't like fish because we were landlocked and kids are picky, but we were landlocked and my exposure to fish was the local Red Lobster and that was it. So I grew up
Yeah.
thinking I'm not a fish person until I visited Alabama and Florida. And of course, the restaurants down there advertise fresh caught fish that day, the morning of. They're
Yeah.
brought in, never frozen. My mind quickly changed. Like, okay,
Yep.
I do like seafood. It just depends on where it is.
It just needs to be
Yes,
fresh.
quality and fresh. Well, let's talk
Yes.
about recipe development. That is so interesting to me, and it's something you have done for 20 years or however long with all these different
Yeah.
companies. A lot of times, what you're doing is you're developing recipes, publishing recipes. How did you start in that? How do you do that? Did that come from your knowledge that you gained in culinary school?
So I always like to go back to the very beginning, which is, growing up in a home that celebrated food. My mom, she is an amazing cook. She later became a chef when I was in college or had just graduated college, and she decided to enroll in culinary school. She was always an amazing cook, but it was something that she wanted to do. So then she honed new skills, and I was so inspired by that I had gone to school for journalism. I was a newspaper reporter, and then I moved to New York City and I started working in trade magazines in the fashion world actually. And thinking about my mom's shift, later, and knowing how much I loved, also, like, I loved food so much and I lived in this vibrant food scene in New York. It's like, maybe I could do this with my life too. So I decided to enroll in culinary school. That's where I ended up at the French Culinary Institute, which has now changed names and hands, but it was a great program. Met some lifelong friends there and knew that I wanted, after that program, wanted to go back into the media world in some way. So that's where as I was leaving, or as I was wrapping up my education there, I saw a post for a job at Family Circle. They were looking for an assistant editor, and I thought this was perfect. I remember my mom always having copies of Family Circle in hand growing up. And I applied, and I hit it off with the food director at the time and ended up there. My role there was split between editorial, so using my journalism background, and then I learned this whole new set of skills, which was recipe testing and recipe development. That we had a test kitchen there, and so I worked there for 7, 8-ish years, just you know developing recipes for every holiday, every special occasion, family meals, quick snacks. But I really honed the home cook, writing recipes, developing recipes for the home cook. And that sort of became my thing. And what a great experience that was. But I had left at some point after, like I said, 7, 8 years, and I went to a company called HelloFresh. which you might be familiar
I have
with,
heard
but
us.
obviously outside of media. I did a similar job in terms of I was editing recipes, but I was also developing recipes for the meal kit company. So I worked there for, 3 years and then came back to media to Rachel Ray. Spent a few years there. And then sadly, the magazine folded, which is, it was such a great job and I loved it so much, but it was also just something that
Yeah.
happens and has, continues to happen in media.
Yes. I know there's a shift
But
away
I
from
just felt like,
magazines. Back in my day when I was young, that's what everybody read and received in the mail. And now so much is digital. I can imagine that space is a lot harder to keep going.
yeah, it feels like a handful of great food publications out there now,
Mhm.
print publications. But yeah, there is still content to be had, lots of content needed. And so that was the point I decided to shift my career to freelance. And I built my own business, and that's what I'm doing now for the last several years. Just a mix of recipe development or a mix of editing, project management. I wrote the cookbook. I ghostwrite recipes for other cookbooks. I work for brands, food brands, and yeah, that's my long story.
You are a busy lady. I'm sure the
I'm
freelance is
busy.
really a great option because it gives you a lot of flexibility, especially now that you have a couple of young children. That would be the way I would want to do it. You have a work from home job and you can be flexible and do things on your own schedule.
Yeah, it has its upsides and it has its downsides. I love being my own boss, although, when you're working for brands and
They're pretty
you have
bossy.
contracts with companies, you're obviously still reporting to other
Sure.
people. But but yes, running your own schedule, but it's a hustle,
Yeah.
and especially like in the summer when the kids are in and out, it can be a tricky balance because my life is in the kitchen
Mhm.
most of the time. I mean, obviously when I'm editing, I'm not always in the kitchen, but when I'm testing or developing or I need a reference my cookbook collection. I'm down here, and so it's hard to like stay away from.
Stay away from work when you're at
uh,
home. So,
yeah, yeah,
when you
yeah.
go to develop a recipe, obviously, when you're working for Family Circle or HelloFresh, you would have a huge kitchen, and I'm assuming they have lots of ingredients, and you just take things and start working with them. So, either referring to that or your home kitchen, how do you think to yourself, I'm going to develop a recipe today? Do you have an idea that you write down and then you test it? And then how many times do you test it? Do you switch out ingredients, amounts? Like, how long of a process is this? How does it work? Let's say I want to develop a recipe. What do I do?
Sure. So it's kind of tough to answer just in general, but I think a lot of times, like you have more of a focus, right? So you're like, okay, I know that if I'm going to pitch this recipe or, develop this recipe, it's for if I'm working for a specific brand. Obviously, like I have to understand their voice and their needs. But if I'm pitching one to a media outlet, I think about when this recipe might run. So you look at seasonality and you have to like understand the voice of each of these places. So knowing what sort of, is this going to be something for the home cook? Is it going to be something for an experienced home cook or what type of audience are we looking at? So there's all those things that factor in. And then from there, I look at, okay, do I want to pitch a dessert? Am I looking at, you know, an entree, like, meal type? So it's not just like throwing things against the wall. It's
See if it sticks.
trying to, yeah, exactly. There has to be more of a focus. Otherwise you'll be there
Right. You
all
have to kind
day.
of know what it is you're trying to create, a very specific
Achieve.
category.
Yeah. And Yeah, it's a mix of also, do you want to be, is it based on another concept? Is it a brand new set of idea? There's so many things that factor into to it. So it's hard to like give a one
Exact
solid
step by
answer,
step.
but
There's not one.
yeah, a lot of it depends on the brand or the client or the
Hmm.
publication, and just really understanding the voice and the needs of
Who you're writing
those
for.
places.
How many times do you have to
Yeah.
create a recipe until you think this is it? I think this is a great one.
Sometimes it can happen on the first try. I would say, a couple times maybe. There are definitely recipes that will take forever.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about a recipe that I did. Oh gosh, it was a baked good. It was a coffee cake. And it wasn't what I wanted. I think I made it 6 times. And, when you're baking, there's a lot of
That's a lot of
things involved
work,
that
a lot
just
of steps,
a
and a
lot of
lot of cleanup.
setup. Yeah. Like, oh gosh, I have to like bring this butter to room temperature
Right.
again, or
By
whatever it
round
is.
6 or round 7, you never wanted to see coffee cake again in your life.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. But I was so happy in the end with how it turned out
Oh, good. So it was
finally.
worth it.
It was worth it. But yeah, so there's situations like that
Sure. Well, you've
where that
probably done it
happens.
enough times that you can be successful pretty early on because you've written recipes enough to be able to look at it and say, okay, these ingredients look right. They look like the right amounts, and just tweak it here and there.
Yeah.
There's so many recipes out there. Do you have to search and make sure that, say, your blueberry muffins are different from everyone else's blueberry muffins, or do you just not worry about it because there's a gazillion out there? You just write your recipe and you just go for it because you aren't looking at somebody else's? Or do you have to search the web and try to make sure that your ingredient is slightly different from somebody else's? How does that work?
Sure. So recipes, when you think you have a new idea, it's so funny. It's like, oh my gosh, no one's ever thought of this, right? And then you Google it and you're like, oh yeah, that combination has definitely been
Uh-huh.
done. But when I'm writing a recipe, I definitely do research and just see what's out there. But when it comes to the actual writing of the steps, I I don't reference the recipes in that sense because I don't want to be influenced by like what else is being said in those steps. So I'm writing it in my own language. And chances are that nothing is going to be exact, right? But there's always going to be, if like I'm doing a blueberry muffin, somebody else has done a blueberry muffin. So there's probably going to be like pretty similar ingredients
Mhm.
and similar methods, but
But your own
something will
language. Yes.
writing in your own language, and also there'll be some variance in ingredients too. So,
Yeah. I don't
um,
know if you heard in 2020, it was kind of in the news, which is, I somehow ran across this, that because of COVID or during that time, I think it was Doubletree Hotel that released their famous chocolate chip cookie recipe. I didn't know they had a famous chocolate chip cookie recipe, but they released it in 2020 as just a comfort measure to all the people out there. Top secret recipe. But what
oh,
was funny about
I
it
love it.
was I read the recipe, and it's a chocolate chip cookie recipe, which I love. Hot chocolate chip cookies, they are my kryptonite. I mean, if they are in the kitchen and they're hot, I keep eating them. So I try to not make them
Yep.
unless other people are there who can consume them and quickly get them out of the kitchen. Anyway, the recipe had typical chocolate chip cookie ingredients, except it had a teeny bit of lemon juice, like a teaspoon. And I had that thought of like, do they really need the teaspoon, or are they just trying to be different from all the other chocolate chip cookie recipes?
That's so funny.
I've never
Did you
seen
make
that
it?
before. It's delicious. Absolutely delicious.
Huh.
I will post this recipe and any that she talks about. We
Yep.
can maybe get permission to post the smash burgers. We'll see. But I will post the chocolate chip cookie recipe link and any other recipes we talk about on comeoverfordinner.com. so we can access it. But it is the most delicious recipe. I loved it. And one time, because it calls for better, I have a niece that's dairy free. And so I substituted coconut oil, just thinking, well, she can have them now. And you make sure your chocolate chips are dairy free. And it is a great recipe for that as well. So I did that, but I was making 2 batches side by side. And my youngest son, Max, he's still at home, we kept eating the dairy-free ones. We just kept eating the ones with the coconut oil. And we even put some in the freezer. Like next time we go over to their house, we'll bring some. And we kept eating those out of the freezer instead of the ones we were supposed to be eating. So, hot tip, if you're dairy-free or if you just want to try it, the coconut oil version instead of butter, which I love butter. I will not disparage butter. It was actually better. So good. But anyway, I did have that thought of like, are they adding lemon juice just to be different? Or is there really like something to this here? Or is this really optional?
I love butter. I do. Coconut oil is great. My went through a period where my daughter had to not have dairy, but I grew up in the Midwest and I can't live without butter. And I do feel like it makes such a tender cookie. There's just a chew to it and just like a richness that you can't get.
Yes.
With
thankfully our current culture has moved away from margarine and tubs of things. When I first got married, my husband had grown up on country crock. And that did appear in our refrigerator a time or two, but I slowly convinced him butter is the way. You have to do better.
Yes.
So we have not seen a tub of anything in our refrigerator for quite some years.
Yeah. I actually work with a company called Challenge Butter.
Yes.
And they are so wonderful. It's a California-based butter company. And truly it's butter. It's cream and salt. It's as simple as you can get. But they're just really wonderful. They've been around for a really long time, and they're doing some new innovations and
just came out with some butter cubes, didn't they? Like a smaller wrapped package.
They have, which is so great, for family of 4, right? There's so many things, and we can talk a little bit about that later when we talk about some recipes, but they're individually wrapped in 4 tablespoon servings. So I don't know. I mean, you have a family, right? And I'm sure that 4 tablespoons of butter would be used in a dish easily. So it's nice not to have to unwrap and cut and slice and just sort of use that to start your meal, to finish your pasta sauce.
Unwrap that 1 cube and toss the whole thing in, and you're going fast, which is one of her time savers. So we'll jump into some of that. Let's jump into. You have made so many recipes over the years. I'm sure you have some favorites. You probably have many favorites, but what is some of the favorite things that you would serve to your family or inviting people over? Simple, fun, easy, could be a weeknight dinner or weekend, whatever you want to choose. What is something you would recommend to the home cooks out there?
Sure. Well, what I was going to say, I'll get to my family in a second, but I was thinking about your love for chocolate chip cookies. And I was like, oh gosh, I need to remember to tell her to try. I developed a recipe last year for New York Times Cooking for edible cookie dough.
Oh.
And it's so good, dangerously
this
good.
This is going to be bad.
So I know.
But so good.
It's really good. I still love a chocolate chip in the cookie, but you can also change it up and put M&Ms or any other candies in there. But yeah, I love the classic dark chocolate chip, really. Anyway, that recipe is fun, and you should try
it posted on NewYorkTimesCooking.com, or where do we find it?
Yes, it is. Yes. And I can share that with you. But so family meals. I have to say I'm really lucky with my kids. And I'm sure I need to give myself more credit, because I'm sure a lot of it has to do with how I've approached food with them and what they see. Like I said, I'm in the kitchen very often, and they see that. So they're always asking me what I'm making. They recognize smells that I feel like no other kids recognize.
Like, Mom, are you using cardamom today?
Right. My son, he'll tell you the two things he doesn't like to eat. It's hilarious. They're mushrooms and polenta.
Mature for a 6-year-old
Okay.
if he eats everything else.
He does. His favorite food, he loves soup dumplings and he loves sushi.
That's amazing. What are
But
soup dumplings?
yeah,
Like dumplings in a soup?
so he likes the Shanghai soup dumpling, which is if you picture like a wonton type wrapper, and then it's filled with soup and meat. And so it's like this little pocket. You bite a hole in the side, and you mix like black vinegar with it, and it's a whole experience. He loves that. So we'll go on like little soup dumpling dates.
This is something I need to try. This is something very New York.
It's so good. It is. And they're selling soup dumplings now nationally. Like you can pretty much, I shop at a couple places, but one of the places I always go to is Whole Foods, and they actually they carry that now. But you can find them.
Where do you look in the frozen section?
Frozen
I
section.
do not have a Whole Foods here, but I go to cities that have them. So I will have to look for this. I've never heard of them and never tried them, but it does sound like a really fun experience. And I love trying new things.
They're really great in a restaurant too. Like you've got to go.
So if I see it on a menu,
find it, like,
is this I'm
yes.
assuming it would be an Asian type restaurant.
Yeah, this is a Chinese or Taiwanese too. So yeah, they're so delicious and really, really fun eating experience. But I am not making soup dumplings at home.
It does sound very involved.
Yeah, they're very involved.
Before we move forward, a big thank you to the sponsors for supporting today's episode. Have you ever thought about how much science is involved in cooking? Chemistry, physics, and biology are at play all over your kitchen. On the cutting board, in the mixing bowl, on the stovetop, and in the oven. Inquisicook is on a mission to show students that science can be relevant, fascinating, and delicious, all while teaching an essential life skill. Inquisicook begins with the basics of food science and culinary arts, then adds skills and concepts in a carefully crafted sequence that leads to proficiency. Best of all, the principles can be applied to any cuisine, any available foods, and any dietary restrictions. So when it's time for people to come over for dinner, the options are endless. Visit Inquisicook.com to view sample lessons, then check out the recipe gallery to see just how crave-worthy science can be.
So what I was saying is that I feel very lucky. My kids are really adventurous, so they'll try everything. And if they don't like something, I don't force them to finish it or eat it, any more of it. I just want them to like try it, But they usually like end up, they eat what we eat every night. I have a couple recipes that I end up repeating. I know most people cook like that too, right?
Yes.
Like you have your stable of recipes and you rotate them in and out. But because I do so much development and I have so many ingredients in my home at any given moment, I'm sort of using the odds and ends of it, or we're tasting what I developed or tested. Right now I'm testing and developing this cookbook for someone, and it's food from every country in the world. And so the kids have had like this really amazing experience of being able to be like, okay, so today we're going to make food from, and name a country. And then we talk about it. But on any, like if I were to just like say, what do I want? Like ask the kids, what do you want for dinner tonight? It would probably be some sort of pasta dish.
Kid favorite.
Yep. But cobbled together with whatever we have, in the fridge. Of course, my daughter loves pizza. We all love pizza. That would be her favorite thing in the world. And yes, we buy it, but I do make it sometimes.
You're very close to New York City. How can you not buy pizza from New York City?
I know. And Jersey pizza is really good.
I can imagine.
It is. So yeah, so that would be like the easiest, like probably most common thing
Mhm.
that we do. Lots of different variations on meatballs. And entertaining, you know, I always try to make something, I think about things that are comforting, but also things that people wouldn't necessarily be making at their own home so that they can have a fun experience when they're here and say, like, oh, I've never had this before. Like this is really cool. Like I'm going to try to make it at home
Yeah.
myself or whatever.
Kind of offer them a new recipe
Um,
to try if they like it a lot.
yeah. Yeah. I actually just had my husband's family. They came over last weekend and there were 12 of us. And so I entertained them with a whole menu from Georgia, the country, not the state. And so we had a little global
That would be
Georgian
so
dinner,
good.
which was fun. I think that no matter what you make, people I appreciate just somebody putting that thought and love into food. And so people are always saying, Melissa, we are so nervous to cook for you because this is what you do. And I say, I don't think about that. I am so happy for anybody to cook for
Yes,
me. And I hope you feel the same when I'm cooking for
yeah,
you.
it's one night or day or whenever it is. It's one time that you don't have to cook for yourself, do all the work, the shopping, the prep, the cleanup. It's amazing. And
Yeah,
food tastes better for some reason when somebody just sets it right in front of you. They may be all nervous
it
about how
absolutely
perfect it
does.
is, and it's just like, this is delicious.
Yes, for sure.
Do you have any favorite recipes that you've created over the years? Something that stands out in your recipe development that this was just like top five? Or do you just kind of like all of them because you put so much into them?
I think about the years that I spent at Family Circle, and I created so many Thanksgiving meals. And for me, trying to reinvent the wheel every year, it's exhausting, but also such a challenge for me. And I loved that. And so I feel like because it's also a holiday that I love and, my family loves, I would always get really excited about developing Thanksgiving. And so trying new things there with the turkey or sides, that was always fun for me. And then when I moved over to HelloFresh, I was able to develop the Thanksgiving box, the first Thanksgiving box that they sent out, and talk about a logistical, like,
That would,
it was just
because that's a
crazy.
lot to put out there.
Yes, shipping a turkey, making sure that people thawed it in time, like there was so much involved. The little playbook that we sent out, for the step by
Yeah.
step, and this is how you cook things. But that was successful. And I remember being so emotional thinking about how there were people that were ordering this box that were cooking the recipes that I created for them and spending this holiday together, eating a meal that I had put thought into and wanted to make it right for them. So for me, like Thanksgiving across the board is one of those things that like has a special place, I think, in my
Yeah.
heart personally. And I think as a country, it's obviously so
Sure.
meaningful to us. And it makes me
Oh,
happy when,
yes. That's a great experience. And it's so helpful to people who maybe they're busy or maybe they're ordering the box because they're new cooks. And it really is helpful to have that step by step and be able to say, okay, I am going to pull off Thanksgiving this year, even though I feel maybe overwhelmed and don't know how to do it. If you could order a
yeah,
kit and have a step by step instructions and recipes, that would be a great springboard to continue doing it every year, to be able to say, okay, I have the
yeah,
confidence, I can do this. Thanksgiving is a hard one for sure, if you're
it
the
is.
one hosting.
It is. It's stressful. And in the end, people just want to like sit down and be
Yeah,
together. So
well,
let's take the
for
stress out.
sure. Well, speaking of stress, one of the things you have talked about and probably written about is how to do shortcuts that keep meals fresh without a lot of extra work and reduce prep time, that sort of thing. So, do you have any tips on how to keep things on a daily basis from becoming this overwhelming job in the kitchen, so to speak?
For sure. So I mentioned before that I work with Challenge Butter, and the company recently did a survey and found out that 90% of Americans don't start a meal from scratch, which is like mind blowing to think about. There's a lot of shortcuts that people take. You might not be surprised. The number one shortcut is rotisserie chicken.
Oh, okay.
It's one of my shortcuts too. I think it's a great way to start a meal. And also I love using every part of that chicken, right? So I have, there's four of us, and our kids aren't quite big enough yet that we would plow through the whole chicken in one meal, but usually we'll have it for a couple of days and I'll spread it out. Like, one day we'll do something, and then another day we'll do something else. And then I always use the bones and make a stock, because rotisserie chicken bones are so good for stock, and honestly really easy. It sounds fussy, but it's actually a really hands-off sort of thing. You're just throwing like an onion and some celery and water and peppercorns and bay leaf in a pot and waiting for it to like simmer while you do everything else in life. But anyway, so that's one of the big shortcuts, I would say. I also think that, trying just to find easy ways to make a simple meal really delicious is key. We were talking about using the butter before I make a lot of baked dishes and like casserole, we'll call them casserole type dishes, which I'm also glad those have like come back in a really big way, because casseroles can be really delicious. But topping those with an extra crunch factor so they don't have all the same texture, and using whatever, like tortilla chips or crackers or breadcrumbs, and dotting it with butter to make it nice and golden and crisp. And then, like, if you're doing a chicken, not rotisserie chicken, but if you're just doing like simple chicken breasts in a pan, why not make a quick pan sauce out of it, right? Just throw in a little broth after you take the chicken out, and maybe some whatever fresh or dried herbs you have on hand. And then once you turn off the heat, you just put that butter in there and like let it melt on its own in the pan. And that literally is like the most beautiful, simple sauce to pour over simple chicken. Just things that don't take a ton of time, but can get you something delicious in an easy way.
If you have some of those ideas in your back pocket, that does make for a very easy weeknight dinner. So you're not having to order food in. You can quickly pan fry some chicken breasts, make a delicious sauce, put some rice or vegetables or whatever on the side, and you have a meal.
Yeah, I end up too. Like, I use my freezer is pretty packed with things that I know my family loves, and I can pull out and thaw or not thaw and just cook from frozen. Salmon, you can take that out and cook it from frozen, and it turns out perfectly like medium in the center. I always have grinds, ground meat, ground chicken on hand. Obviously, I thaw those, but something that I'll know that I can, if I'm thinking about dinner at some point in the morning, like what are we going to do tonight? I just take it out and put it in there. I always have frozen dumplings on hand and some frozen vegetables like frozen peas and spinach. And then in the pantry, I always end up having some things too, beans and, even like marinara sauces, definitely jars of canned tomatoes, dried noodles and rice, things that I know that I can get a head start on. The produce, obviously, like that's the piece that you have to think about during the week. But hopefully the shopping list can get smaller once you have all those other things on hand, and you just know, like, all right, broccoli's on sale today. That looks good. I'll pick it up and I'll add it to like whatever else I have, or that sort of concept.
Yeah. Yeah, those sound like great starters for meals. That's wonderful advice. When you are preparing for people to come to your house, either for Thanksgiving or just a regular week, do you have ways that you prepare for them coming, whether it's a shopping tip or a cleaning tip? And also, when they get there, do you have advice for making them feel welcome when they come to your home?
Sure. So, I want people to come and I want to be able to spend time with them, and make them feel like they're in a home. And I think that a lot of times in the past, when I was younger and starting to host, I was so consumed with what I was doing in the kitchen that I wouldn't have time. It wouldn't be enjoyable for me. It's like I knew that I was creating this meal that people were going to like, but I wasn't, it felt like I was not a part of it. And so now what I've tried to do is when I'm thinking about entertaining is having dishes for the most part like ready, and you can either heat them or it's just minimal stuff that you have to do. Like if it's something's in the oven or on the stovetop simmering, that's different. But you want to engage with your guests. I do anyway,
Mhm.
and you don't want to be running around because that's just not fun.
Yeah.
So I think that thinking about dishes that are streamlined, either you can do ahead. I think that's really great. But what I also on the flip side of that, I would say that I have a big kitchen island, and so when people do come over, they gather around that. So we find ourselves in the kitchen anyway, but at least it feels like it's a conversation, and I can pour a glass of wine and we can have like some snacks, and I think that makes people feel cozy and at home too. So I just think anything that can make people feel comfortable, because why do you want to go to a stiff dinner party?
So true. I know what you're talking about. I have definitely done those types of dinners where at the end of the night, everyone's leaving, and I just kind of like, and I have thought to
Yeah.
myself, what in the world? I needed to have enjoyed it and been present. And what's the point of having people over if you're the one just a harried kitchen maid? There's no point. You
Yeah.
don't need to put that on yourself. So, whatever you have to do to either make it simple or work ahead or whatever, make sure that you are a part of welcoming the guests and actually enjoying the fellowship that you planned for the evening. So,
That's
I
right.
definitely have had to grow in that area. So, great
Yeah.
advice.
I'm still learning. I'm getting
For
better
sure.
though. If I say it out loud, it happens, right?
We're preaching to ourselves. Do you have a favorite kitchen item that we must have in our own kitchens?
Besides like the basics, right? Like obviously, I mean, I love a good kitchen knife, but I'm not going to go with that because I feel like everyone has that. I love my rasp grater, my microplane, usually that brand. Are you familiar with the rasp
Yes.
grater?
Is that the
Like,
one
yeah.
that's it's kind of a long rectangle and it does things really well like zest, lemon zest, lime
Yes.
zest, maybe grated
Yes.
chocolate or something, Parmesan
Yep.
cheese.
All those
I
things. Yeah,
have
you've got
two
it.
of those actually in my I don't know how I have two, but I have two. I mean, you probably only
Well, I'm
need
glad you
one,
do
but
because hopefully you put it to
yes. Oh,
use.
I zest all the
I
time.
I was gonna say, like, I love
Mhm.
citrus, and I think that using lemon zest, it ends up in so many of my recipes. Grating garlic ends up in a lot of my recipes. So I think for me, if I didn't have that, I mean, sure, we can all use a knife to get there in some way, but this, I think,
Far
is
superior.
yeah. So that's the tool I would say if you want to, elevate any dish. It's using.
Yes, don't skip. If you do, if you think, oh, it's, 1 teaspoon of lemon zest, it won't matter. Actually, that ingredient does. And there's no
Right.
substitute for fresh. I would say the
That's
same thing
right.
with the juice too, lemon, lime juice. You really need to do fresh, the bottled. If you just taste them side by side.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
No
no comparison.
comparison.
If you're not sure, and I'm not saying I haven't used bottled lemon juice in the past, but I've definitely moved away from it because it's similar to jarred garlic. You taste it. And I have gone through jars of whatever, it's pre-minced garlic, but I have moved away from it because if you taste it and then taste the fresh, you're like, wait, this isn't the same thing at all.
That's right.
So that's a great recommendation. And they're probably $10. They're not very expensive. Yeah. When I was first married, I didn't have one, and I would use the knife trick, and it just doesn't get as fine. I mean, you can chop, but I guess that goes back to having a good knife. I also did not have a good knife, so there were lots of problems that I had to overcome.
Well, you probably have a good knife, but you just need a good knife.
That's it. And to know how to use it, which, by the way, it was recommended by America's Test Kitchen, and I bought one, and I highly recommend the knife sharpener I have now. I think it's Chef's Choice or something like that. I can put a link to it.
That's a good one.
It is an electric, so you don't have to know the chef skill, where you're just taking and honing
the blade.
Of course, I've talked to people that have told me about honing versus sharpening. We won't go into all of that here, but having a good electric knife sharpener is a game changer. It really does make a huge difference. Sure. So I'll have to put a link to that product, and you can watch for it to go on sale because the price has gone up since I bought it, but it does go on sale. So you can set a price tracker.
It does. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one.
Are there any recommendations you would give for inviting kids in the kitchen and getting them involved in cooking?
Yeah, I think it starts with the idea process, right? So talk about what you want to cook with me. What do you want to eat? And the kids go grocery shopping with me sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes. And I'll say, what vegetable do you want to pick out? Which fruit do you want here? And they kind of, take them up and down the aisles and just get them familiar with the idea of, this is how our meals start. And then in the kitchen, they have their own little aprons. They have their step stools. I have a kid-friendly set of knives for them that are, safer blades. And my almost 4-year-old, Sammy, she loves to use that knife. It has it looks like a dog. There's little ears on the side, like painted on the handle, and so it shows you exactly where you need to pinch and hold the knife.
Really? Where did you find this knife? Yeah, I haven't seen it before.
I think it's a Kuhn Rikon.
Okay.
Is that how you
I don't know.
Brand? I can send the link for that, but they have a whole kids set of tools, and they're really wonderful and nice because they're small enough for kids' hands, but they're also functional tools. I feel like there's a lot of kids stuff out there that doesn't really work. So these are great. So yeah, I let them, try to help me. And I know that it's not always going to be the fastest meal, but that's part of it. It's just they've taught me a lot of patience.
Yes.
Definitely have to have a lot of patience with kids and just trying to teach them that it's really important in a kitchen, whether you're a kid or an adult, to use your listening ears, right? You need to be paying attention, watching what your hands are doing, following directions is so important because you can get hurt in the kitchen. But they really enjoy it, and I hope that they get as much out of it as I do.
I'm sure they will. And the skills they're learning, wow, the growth potential. It won't be long before they're whipping up dinner and you have had nothing to do with it.
Exactly. We have a play kitchen next to our real kitchen. And so that's also fun too, because I was like, this is exactly the spot I want to put it in, because I want them to when they were really young, to play along the way and pretend they were serving us dinner and coming up with ideas and some flavor combinations my son comes up with, I've used.
Yeah,
so
I know the creativity of kids. Wait a second, that's really good.
Yeah. Blueberries and chocolate. Sure, they
Absolutely.
should go together.
Chocolate goes with everything, doesn't it?
It does.
I've heard of it, but I don't know if I've tried it. Chocolate covered bacon or something like that.
It all comes back to chocolate covered bacon, chocolate chip cookie.
Exactly. From all of your years of recipe development, or having people over for Thanksgiving or whatever. Do you have a fun kitchen story for us?
Yeah, I actually told my son this story the other day. There was a time I was developing a cake for Family Circle, and I don't remember the circumstances around it, but for some reason I had a deadline and I was really late with this. I think maybe it didn't work the first time. That part doesn't matter. But I was late doing it. I was ended up being in the kitchen by myself, the test kitchen by myself one evening, and trying to make this layered cake. And I wasn't patient enough to wait for it to cool. And I iced it. And I'm sure you know what will happen next. So I have this beautiful cake on a cake stand, and it's stacked and iced, and I bring it into the conference room to get a photo of it. And I'm carrying my phone and I'm carrying the cake on the stand, and the top layer just goes whoop, ends up upside down on the carpet.
There's no going back from that.
Luckily there was no tasting involved that day. I just needed this image of this thing. And so I had to clean up the floor, scrape it up. I wiped off what I could, tried to re-ice it. I did not serve it to anybody. Don't worry.
It's only pictures only.
Yeah, I think about that and how frustrated I was at that moment. But now I just tell the story and I laugh, and my son thought it was the funniest thing. But at first he was really concerned. He was really sad that a cake fell on the ground.
This is a tragedy, Mom. Why are you laughing?
But I was like, you know what? Adults make mistakes too. Wait, you have to have patience. Wait for your cake to cool.
That's fine. It's funny imagining that the story behind the picture, the magazine picture. It's like, that one was scraped off the carpet. A little bit of carpet was attached, but
yeah, exactly.
That's life. Oh, that's so funny. Yep. That reminds me of a time I have a twin sister, and she was also in a hurry to create this amazing multi-step, probably multi-layer cake. I think there was passion fruit puree involved. And she was, of course, making this dessert to carry over to a friend's house. They had gotten together with some family friends that she knew from out of town. Anyways, this big deal. She was making this beautiful dessert, and somehow in her hurry, something collapsed. It slid off the plate. Somehow the cake ended up by the back door on the floor. Maybe a pan, like a springform pan wasn't attached. I don't know. Anyway, I should re-ask her this story, because it was a pretty funny thing of her having to just figure it out on the fly. And I think what she did was have to realize, because she was serving it to people, what part of this is salvageable? Leave the bottom part on the floor, pick the top part up, and somehow put this together and walk out the door still with a smile on my face.
Oh, my goodness.
It's pretty tough to do.
I'll have those days.
We all have those days. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been so much fun to hear all of your tips on recipe development and how to reduce stress in the kitchen, all your shortcuts, and so much more. Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you so much for having me. This was such a great conversation.
Until next time, bye for now. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to follow the show and leave a review. It helps new people be able to find the podcast. And if you enjoyed this conversation especially, be sure to share it with a friend. Thank you for your time.